How y'all doing? What's going on? Wait till a couple of you guys get up on here. We gonna talk. Family, how y'all doing? Yo, what's going on? Give it to like 1 minute, 1 minute and 30 seconds. I just want a few of you guys to get on here. How y'all doing? How y'all doing, family? Sean, how you doing, family? Mark, how you doing? Joel, Aeneas, how y'all doing? 45 more seconds, y'all. We gonna get right to it. How y'all doing, family? How y'all doing? 20 more seconds, y'all. I'm finna explain everything. How y'all doing? 15 more seconds, 15 more seconds, family. Just want to wait to 1 minute, 30 seconds so a lot of people can get in here so I can explain something to you guys. All right, let's get to it. Y'all, so, I got a client of mine, right, that I've been dealing with for, I want to say, about 6, 7 months, right? And so pretty much the first time my client had bought the full package, the EIN package, not the EIN, I want to say all of my packages, how to cancel contracts, how to get out of state, how to get out of contracts with the state, how to become a state national, and etc. So, you know, when I first met the person, they was nice, they was friendly, they was cool or whatever. So, he ended up sending me the money, right? So he ended up telling me that, hey, I play professional basketball and what and whatnot, right? So at that point, I really, didn't have any thought of it. Like, oh man, that's cool because I bumped into a few basketball players who contacted me personally. It was a basketball, no, it was a football player. It was a football player who contacted me, right? So me and the guy end up talking. We've been talking for a minute, but he told me he lived in Miami, right? So the guy had a spot in Miami that he said. And he also had a spot in Chicago, right? So I ain't thought much of it, man. Him grew a good relationship, a good bond, right? And so let me fast forward it. I ended up meeting the guy one day, and we met each other. We was talking, and so when we first started talking, he started getting into a sob story about his family and everything like that, and it was deep. But one thing I started noticing, right, is it was a couple factors that I knew how I knew something was going wrong. It's because when I first met you, you start telling me everything. Like you start spilling everything, like your thoughts, how you feel, or whatever the case might be. And he was a good guy, he was cool. So we ended up splitting ways. We was cool. So I stayed in contact with him. This is the same guy who say he know a female who's a state's attorney, right? So I never thought much of it, right? Right. So it's been plenty of times, hey man, come down to my condo, we can talk or we can, have a drink or whatever. I don't drink. I said, no, I'm good. So he was like, okay, man, when you trying to meet up or something? Let's talk business. So I'm like, real soon, right? So I ended up meeting up with him like a month ago, right? We played pool and everything, right? So it gets to a point, he showed me a Lamborghini, right? He showed me a Lamborghini on a picture, right? So he was like, man, I bought a Lamborghini, then he came back another week later. He said, man, I bought another one. I'm like, okay, this brother doing good things in life, right? And so when he was showing me stuff, I really didn't thought much of it. But then I ended up getting the software, right? Now, this is a background checker right now. I can explain how this works. This is a background checker. Like it's a public records, right? So I was searching myself up, right, on public records. I wasn't even trying to meddle into other things. I was just trying to search myself up, trying to see what I've been charged with and stuff like that. So I ended up searching a lot of names of people, right? People I do business with, people, everything, right? So it's a brother who I did business with I ain't gonna say his name, but me and him got real close connection. He a Hebrew brother, right? So I searched him and he cleared, right? I seen everything about him. I'm like, oh yeah, he legit. He a real person. So I ended up doing research on the guy who I've been dealing with. He had no public records. So that raised a red flag. So I told my wife, I said, hey, why bro don't have no public records on him? He said he played basketball. He was in a not in the NBA, but he played international, right? So you still have some sort of public records. So there is no name or nothing attached to this man. So he has a common name, right? So say my name, I'm gonna name a common name, Michael, right? But what if I say my last name is Rodriguez, Michael Rodriguez, right? Let's just explain it like that. But let's just go deeper in it, right? So he told me his first name is a common name, but his last name is a Spanish name, right? But the first name is common. So if over 2-3 million people got the same name, it won't draw a red flag, right? So if I got the name Michael, how many people in America got the same name Michael? So um, I end up searching his name. I'm like, dang, I'm trying to search it up. I don't know why I can't find his name. So I end up seeing a profile that's similar to who he is. So his real name pop up, and he got my last name, right? Williams. So I'm doing the research, I'm studying it. I'm like, and it matches the description. It said his age, it said his date of birth, and it said all of his relatives' name, right? So he painted a picture like he was from Miami, Florida, but he was actually from Chicago. But I'm finna tell y'all how this whole thing worked. So by him, hold on, let me see something. Okay, so by him telling me that he's from Miami, but all his connections in Chicago, all his public records only refers to Chicago. But I'm finna show you how it worked. He pretty much, his first name is accurate, but his last name is different. And what he's doing is he working under an alias name. And that's why I want to explain to a lot of you guys who teach this information. When a lot of people say, hey, meet up with me, you don't know if you're meeting up with a true supporter or an agent. Yes, informant is real. And I can identify an informant easily. I'm going to tell you how I can identify an informant, right? It's a few ways, right? But let me get into the details, then I'm going to explain how you can identify an informant, right? So I looked at all of his family tree, and all of it lines up with his last name, right? So they showed that he lived on the south side of Chicago, not where he told me. He told me, hey, I live downtown. Now, that downtown address, I'm going to give y'all a little insight. When you're dealing with a federal agent, most of the time, the feds will create not only the fake alias last name and first name. If you got a common name like my name, not an uncommon name like my name, Taquan, I would have to work under a different name. I couldn't work under Taquan Rodriguez or Taquan Miguel because that name is very uncommon. So my name is a little different. But if I had a name like Eddie or Fred or Frank, those are common names. So I can work under any last name. So when I searched his alias name up, it had an alias profile. And what that is when I searched up his first and last name, it showed his downtown address, right? But let me be a little bit different. This is how another way you can tell if a person's an informant. When they don't have any relative or anybody that linked to them on their public records, that's a red flag. That means that profile was just created, or it's only been created for a certain period of time. It's not an actual public records of you. So the guy I did business with, everybody popped up. His family, his relatives, everyone who he's associated with pops up on public records. And it's very important to know if you're teaching this type of information because you don't know who is who. That's why you always got to test and see what's going on, right? So I told my wife about it. She said, now imagine, she don't understand the system how I understand the system. She don't understand it like that. So you would call them green, right? Green just means unaware or uninformed in a certain, subject. So she was like, why didn't you confront him about it? And I say, for me, I'm not the type of person who will confront anybody about something unless I got full evidence. Full evidence meaning something that can't be disproven, something that has been shown, something that's been thoroughly investigated, thoroughly reviewed, thoroughly everything. So you just couldn't say, oh, this, or you this, you that. No, because You still got to get the evidence before you want to go out and say something crazy, or because you might make a mistake, So me, I like to do my homework. So I knew this information a whole 3 weeks before I even confronted the person. So I never said anything because I just wanted to make sure. So I did another go around of the public records of this individual. Still no public records. There's no Google searches, no Bing searches. There's nothing in history that replicates who he is. Then you go to the criminal record. He told me he'd been accused of this crime, he'd been accused of this crime, but he eventually got acquitted. Those public records will still show, even if you got something called expungement. Public records will still show an arrest, a news article, whether it be a small news article or anything, even a local arrest, anything will show up. So I had to take that into consideration, right? So once we get to that, then I look at social media outlets, who you are connected with, because remember, you told me you are a basketball player. So I checked the roster of that entire team, and there's nothing on that docket that shows that person ever played for that team, right? It's another way. When I look for associates that matches your last name, and no one have it. So you got a weird last name like Rambuski, and there's no associates that replicates that last name, Rambushi, and you the only one. There's no positive relatives. That's also a red flag. Another red flag is when every time I call you, you would say, hey, I'm going out the state, I'm going out the country, or that's a red flag. Because the goal is that you're not really going out of town. The goal is just constantly keep me occupied. So that person will come in, out. So an investigation is not always consistent. When an informant comes, they keep everything casual. They keep everything smooth. They keep everything just peaceful. Like, hey, hi and bye. But one thing about an informant, they always want to meet up with you. And most of the time, the feds or the police doesn't have enough evidence to make an arrest. So what they would do is they would hire an informant to work under you. So when he asks, hey man, why would you think I'd do that if I paid you money? Do y'all realize that the FBI brought $1 million worth of real money to a drug trade in order to take down a cartel? You don't think they would spend a couple $1,000s to invest just to see if it's a possible way to prosecute? Of course they would do that. And let me explain this. The FBI is not what y'all think they are. They're not stupid. They're not that docile. So everything really takes time. An FBI investigation can last for years depending on the individual. It don't last 1 month and that's it. No, if you're a person of interest and the FBI wants you, 9 times out of 10, they will do a thorough investigation to see how can we get you. Now, they will hire informants. Informants work for the government, and they also work under alias names. So if someone ever worked for the government, it's a few ways you can catch them. Number one, they're not in public records. And if they is in public records, if they was to ever be exposed, they couldn't work the job again because their identity is already out there. So a person can work for the government, have a public life and everything, but once they're exposed, they'll be out there. That's why usually most government agencies work under an alias name. They work under a fake name. You get what I'm saying? So we have to understand the difference. We just can't be stupid. We can't just let a lot of things go. So before I get to how you can identify one, I just want to go into detail. So today I confronted that person. Actually last week, but today I confronted them again to be more specific. Last week when I found all the information about that person, I called him. I said, hey man, is your last name Williams? He said, no, that's my father's last name. When I first met him, he told me his daddy's last name is the last name. It's a different last name. I just remembered. That's how you catch a person up with their words. And I asked him, what ID you have? He said, I got a Florida ID. And an hour later, I asked him, send me your ID. He sent me an Illinois driver's license. Now I'm finna break the whole beans, right? When he sent me the Illinois address, the driver's license, it showed that alias address, the one I showed you. And then also, And also, he told me he had a Florida address. I mean, Florida driver's license. He don't have a state ID or state driver's license in the state of. He don't have a state or driver's license in the state of Florida. So all the documentation I seen, I'm like, no, those not real. Cause I know people that make fake IDs. You can put a full name, everything. Y'all listen, it's a whole nother world out there that I don't talk about because I know a lot of spies and a lot of that stuff listening. It's a whole nother world I know about. I know about all that. You can make a fake social security card. You can make a fake credit card. Y'all know that, right? You can duplicate a credit card, social security card. You can duplicate a tax return. You can duplicate anything. And when you're dealing with an informant work under alias name. So remember, an informant has an address. An informant has a credit card under their alias name. An informant also have a driver's license or a state ID under their alias name as well. So when they give you a driver's license, you say, oh, that's a real driver's license. Okay, but this is under his alias name. And when he working for the federal government, it's going to be messages and disclaimers telling the police anytime they get in contact with this person, get off him because he's working. Especially when you're dealing with organized so-called crime, they just want to see. And sometimes when you get investigated by the feds, does not mean that you necessarily getting arrested. So a lot of times the FBI want to scoop information, and I found out that it was an informant instantly. But I had to have the information and the facts. But now let's get over into the ideal of how can you identify an informant. I'm going to tell you how I identify informants. This is number one way you can identify an informant. A lot of times you can identify an informant when they cross up and they cross up in their words. So, or no, let me take that back. When something doesn't add up. When I met him, he told me he played basketball on a professional team overseas. That's one red flag. You put yourself too high. You put yourself way too high. And for you to say that, it got to be something in public records on you. If nothing in public records, you killed yourself. You killed the entire investigation to a person who thinks. Number two, you told me you a millionaire, right? So if you a millionaire, ain't no way in hell your everything in public records just gonna be off. You're gonna have public records. You're gonna have some sort of news article reporting on you. You're gonna have some sort of informational data, right? Number four, another way to tell an informant when he has nothing connected to him. You don't know his wife. You never seen his kids. You never seen a social media account with him interacting with people. You never see him in pictures with other people. That's another step of how you know someone is an informant. Number four, when they say when they don't have no social media accounts, that should be a red flag, and I'm gonna tell you why. And I know some people don't have social media accounts, but let me explain. When you have no social media accounts at all, like you have none whatsoever, but you have a business or a brand, that's a red flag. That's a red flag when you add up all of the circumstances of it. And then when you go more into detail, when you say you own property and you cannot find that in public records, that's another way. You get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? So these are things that's very important to understand. These are things you gotta know. And also when they story not adding up. So anytime y'all teaching this type of information, the people who y'all do business with, always make sure you calculate every step. Always make sure that you have a firm discretion and firm understanding and knowing who you are dealing with at all times. Do not be foolish to just work with someone just because they might offer you someone, just because they have money, but you also want to know, so you want to investigate that individual. You just don't want to say, oh man, like, yeah, you got money, so let's just work. When the feds finance an informant, they finance good. House is paid for. House is covered. Housing is covered. The look is covered as well. So when you're dealing with cars, they can blame you with everything. They'll bring a car around you, a couple $1 million. They'll even spend some money with you just off the strength of an investigation. So when an investigation takes place, they're like, okay, this is what's going on. This is how this is, and then you will know. And like I said, some informants is sloppy, some informants is neat. When anything feels too good to be true, most of the time it is, and that's what gives you a good feeling, especially if you come out too high. Even if you come off low, because the government would send other people who less than that. It sends some people who, now, the flip side, the most dangerous people is those who do have the opposite of what I just explained. They got social media accounts, they got a following, they got connection, they got family, but it also put the informant in danger. So most times they won't hire a normal person to just be an informant unless you cut off all ties. You get what I'm saying? So when I told him that, his response was exactly like I said, stuttering his words. He didn't have a clear direction in his answers, and also getting very agitated because now you busted. Because most federal informants don't get busted. You got some stupid people. You say, "Hey man, yeah, we just doing this, yeah, yeah." Anytime anybody come around me, you can't come around me without me second guessing you. I don't trust nobody besides my family, right? Really, and they even got to be tested. You get what I'm saying? So if I would test my own family, I would also test and see the works of a stranger. Because you got to understand, this type of information right here is dangerous, especially when you explain it right. If I was just on here running around the track like most gurus is running around the track saying shit, excuse my language, just saying stuff, straw man this. But if I'm explaining this stuff in detail, it's a more dangerous thing because now this person is teaching those of a certain light. Okay, he teaching this type of information. He teaching this type of information. So we need to hire someone to get in more just so we can listen in on what he's talking about. And there's a lot of informants out there, y'all. And one thing about an informant, you don't know who the informant is. I just got to investigate you. So again, a lot of people who ask me questions to coin this link up, I don't know if you're an agent. I told people that on the phone. I said, bro, I don't know if you're an agent. You could be an agent, bro. I don't know you. Like, honestly, I just don't because most people are agents. Oh, a lot of people are agents, bro. Some people are genuine. I agree. I met a couple people on the streets who just seen me on TikTok and they were saying, hey, right? But I know genuine people and I know people who are agents. Most people are agents, they want to get all in. They want to be your best friend. They want to do this, do that. And that's how, now, I can't necessarily say that they are agents just because they want to be your best friend. But what I can say is agents usually have an agenda. And when they investigate very carefully and thoroughly. So they don't push on too hard, but they don't push on too lightly. But it's always a consistency with they stay with you. So one thing about them, they will constantly grow with you. They will constantly build with you. They will constantly analyze the situation. Because anytime you do something in front of an informant, the goal is to document that, and also the wiretaps. The goal is to document that and give it over to the police, give it over to the FBI. Give it over to the federal attorney, whoever prosecuting the case, just to give them more information on what you have against me. Because usually, in any time you're dealing with the Black Panthers, did y'all know they were taken down by an informant? Y'all didn't know that? I'm going to tell you how the Black Panthers were taken down. They all was in a circle, and they discovered one guy in a group who was an informant. They ended up setting up a group meeting, and what happened is during the middle of the meeting, they walked up to the informant, stripped his shirt open, and guess what it was? It was a wire right there. You get what I'm saying? So you can't be stupid. The same way you look at a Mexican cartel's informants everywhere. Informants is everywhere. Don't think it just informants is everywhere. And all informants are not there just to arrest. Most of the informants are there to collect evidence and information. All informants ain't got enough evidence to make the arrest. If they did, they would have done it. But too many times, with the informant, he gathered enough information or evidence, then they can subject that to an arrest or anything like that, or even try to charge with an act of treason. You get what I'm saying? So any informants or any red flags I see or any inconsistencies automatically let you know that person's an informant. And trust me, if you come around me and I just see something iffy, I'm gonna touch your chest. No homo. You got a wire on you or something like that. Just how a person talk or how they act, or if they don't have any connections around them, let me know like, oh yeah, you got to be an informant. You have to be one. You have to be one. Just if you move the wrong way, like say the wrong thing, I will know that you are an informant. Just off my experience with the system, just off my understanding of what an informant is, and me also analyzing the individual. I analyze more than I just make an assumption, because one thing about me, I don't jump to conclusions. I'm very careful with my thought process because you never want to make a mistake of accusing somebody of something that they're not. So even if I gather information on you, I'm not going to say anything until I know is that or that you clear. If you cleared, I'm not going to mention nothing to you. Like my business partner. When I ran a search on him, he good. I never said nothing to him. He don't even know. Like right now, he probably know, but he don't know that I checked him out. I checked him out. He good. Him and everybody around him good. So I know he's not an informant. He's not one. And I can meet up with him anytime you want. But a lot of people, I just can't make that verification unless I know for certain that you're not an agent. For certain. or anything like that. Especially if I involve myself personally with you, or you end up building a relationship with me, then I'll have to know like, hey, who are you? You know, who sent you, or whatever the case might be. Some people come off, hey, I just want information. No, it's more to it. It's way more to it. And 9 times out of 10, he could have got hired by the police department. He could have got hired by the ATF. He could have got hired by the FBI. You do not know. You ain't gonna know that he's an informant until it's time for you to get arrested, and you still might not know because most informants, when they gather the information and when it's time to make the arrest, they just disappear. You get what I'm saying? They just disappear. So when they disappear, you know it's over with. Yep, they make up whole new identities, and one of the main things, y'all, of an informant, they have no connection around them. They don't have family, they don't have friends, they don't have girlfriends, they don't have social medias. All of that, red flag, red flag, red flag. I know people right now on the run, and they've been on the run for 3 years, and and they got public records. You get what I'm saying? Now I don't know him personally, but he contacted me one time. It was a guy who was actually on the run for the police. And he searched, and I searched him up through public records, found everything on him. He got three. He got, I think, a warrant for probation or something. He's in the private for real. He's truly in the private. Now, if yep, yep, Terrell Barnes, yep, that's exactly what it is. Can't trust no informant. Can't trust no informant. And then if they work through the family, it's the same thing. It's the same thing, y'all. If they work through a family, that's the same thing. That's why you got to be careful for family members. But if you just, even by teaching stuff like this, it's still dangerous. It's not like simple. It's dangerous teaching stuff like this, especially when you are detailed as me when you explain it, because you're giving more clarification. Like the do not detain list, that list was not supposed to be shown to the internet. Just that list, just imagine innocent people just seeing that list. You know how many dark sites, dark websites I searched on, and I found that same screenshot of my do not detain list records. That stuff all over the internet. On Scrib, it's on another website that I've seen. I've seen it on a few websites. Yep. Yeah, I'm very careful, but you know, it comes with the territory. And one thing about it, and what makes it dangerous is, it's the fact that I understand it and I know that he's an informant, and that's what makes it dangerous. Because once you catch an informant, either gigs up or they finna make the arrest. That's how it is most of the time. Because because once you catch the informant, they know they gonna send another one, and then it's gonna be the same thing. But this time, you gotta be way. I gotta be way more strict on myself. You can't allow a person to come in closely. You can't allow a person to come around you. Now, they never came to my house or nothing like that, but it's the fact that even being in the same space speaks value. Because most of the time the feds can tag your car. That's why I check under my vehicle for air tags, trackers, or you can look inside your tank. You gotta be, listen, you have to be on point. You have to. You just gotta know this stuff, y'all. Yeah. Yeah, family. Yeah, this stuff is real. Yeah, this stuff is real, y'all. This stuff is real, man. Yep, it's a lot of informants out here. It's a lot of people, spying on us for teaching this type of information. But that's why we gotta, wake the people up and let them know that they will face stuff like this. If you go around teaching this type of information, they're hiring an informant on you. Oh, hold on, family. Yep. I'm pretty sure they did investigate Patrick Devine. Patrick Devine was speaking some deep stuff back then. You know, once the FBI paid me, the FBI never paid me a visit. They do an investigation. They're not paying me a visit. You don't see the FBI till it's too late. That's one thing about the feds. You don't see the feds till it's too late. They don't never just come naked, just to come. Nah, they don't. And most of the time, that's why they have a 99% conviction rate, because they use they go from the inside out. You know, like local police, they might see you with a gun. They might see you walking with a gun and arrest you. That's going the outside in. But inside out, meaning they have to have co-ops that work within to get you, because it's more easier, and then the evidence more consistent, especially when they got you doing crime with the informant. The informant to do crime with you. Remember when the Black Panther was driving around? The guy who was he? The guy who was the informant started the robbery with the Black Panthers. Went to the store and robbed the entire store, went through another cut and hopped in the car with the FBI, and the police arrested the Black Panthers for armed robbery. Ain't that crazy? Yeah, like y'all gotta know, like, this system is serious. Like, this game is not no joke. This game is not no joke. Yeah, you can get a patent. You get your home patent. That home and everything, you know, I closed in September, and that's another thing, y'all. Look, so by me getting a home, I can't even talk about that because you got informants. You know, can't even talk about that. Like which bank is gonna lend to me, or no, I can't talk about it. Can't talk about it at least until I get it and I get a land patent on it. Then I'll talk about it. And we're gonna talk a lot about it because I actually got a lot of more games to share to y'all about like mortgages and everything like that, on how to get in and everything. It's a long process, y'all. It's a long process. But yeah, so that's my little story for the day. Hope y'all found it informational, because I wanted you guys to know that they is watching and everything like that, and they've been watching me for a minute, and they even hired an informant, but it just won't work right now. If you want to get an informant, use my wife. that'd be one way you can get me. You can get me like that, and not like I don't do nothing criminal, but it's just the fact, like, if your wife trade on you, then yeah, they got you. But if anybody else, like, nah, I don't look at people like that. I don't just, like, you just couldn't come around me and I just sit down and like, hey, no. Like, I have to, you know, analyze situations. So, stay blessed and I will contact. Yes, sir. If anybody want to contact me for any process, hit me up. 224-463-1848. Again, 224-463-1848. Y'all want any process regarding status correction, getting out of contracts with the state, how to build your EIN number, create a personal credit profile, just contact me. I'm out. Peace and love.